Hey everyone! In today's video, I am talking about my top 20 films of 2025. I watched 108 films in 2025, and initially I was going to do a ranking of every single film that I watched, but it got to a point where I felt like I was rambling about stuff and didn't really have any direction of what I wanted to say, so I thought talking about my top 20 was a bit more fitting, considering my top 20 is still diverse, but it's all the movies that I really like. So, without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it. I hope you all enjoy, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe, and expect a lot more content this year as I talk about 2026 releases throughout the course of the year. Enjoy. Coming in at number 20 is going to be Good Fortune. This was a comedy movie that absolutely shocked me. I intended on seeing it opening weekend because that was the point where I'd kind of gotten addicted to this movie binge thing, but I ended up having to stream it at home, and I don't regret it. Keanu Reeves is pretty great in this film and is by far the standout for me in terms of the funniest performance. But Seth Rogen and Aziz Ansari are both great, and the fact that this is his, I believe, directorial slash writing slash general film debut is pretty cool. It has good underlying tones about social class and stuff like that. The message is quite fun, and in general, I just thought this movie was really funny. So if you're into comedies and you want something that's got this, just a kind of ridiculous little comedy film, check out Good Fortune. I had a good time with it. Coming in at number 19 is going to be Bring Her Back. Initially, this was a lot higher on my list, but I started to realize that I had a few more issues with it than I thought, so I moved it down to 19. Bring Her Back is definitely an excellent film. I don't quite like it as much as Talk to Me, the film from I might pronounce this wrong. I believe it's the Philippou brothers, from a couple years ago, but I still really enjoy this film. My big issues with it come from mainly the predictability of it. The title, Bring Her Back, as well as the intro being a kind of ritualistic sacrifice, kind of instantly honed me in on, okay, we're doing kind of the ritual resurrection thing. I kind of knew that's where we were going with this movie, so the ending didn't really shock me that much. Still, though, it is quite graphic, it is quite intense, and it is kind of disturbing in so many different levels. So, if you don't do well with horror films, this one might be one you want to skip because this one is quite intense. But for me personally, I had a great time with this film. It's definitely one of the better horror films that come out this year, and I have it at number 19. At number 18 is going to be Mickey 17. One of the many films this year with kind of dual roles where Robert Pattinson is playing two characters that are the same person but different. And this is a very interesting film about kind of like, it's a sci-fi take on like, a political kind of movie, and it's really interesting. I love a lot of what they do here. I think Robert Pattinson delivers a great performance, and I love how much range he has, because I've seen him in so many movies, and he has just so much range to his performances. On top of that, I think that Mark Ruffalo is pretty great in this film, and I'm struggling to think of the lead female actress, but she's also wonderful in this film. And in general, I have a great time with Mickey 17. It's the only movie on this list that I have no complaints or super overly positive things to say. It's just a really good movie that I put in my top 20. So if you like sci-fi and you like slightly political critique films, then this one's definitely one you should check out. At number 17 is going to be my hottest take on this entire list, and I am okay with it isolating me from the majority of people, and that is Hurry Up Tomorrow. I am, for all intents and purposes, a massive fan of The Weeknd, and I have been for like 6 years, so by design, I felt like I was pretty much destined to like this movie. I understand if you don't like it. I get that this movie has a lot of problems. It is definitely a kind of a mess of a movie, but it's my mess of a movie. So if you don't like it, fully understand. I'm not going to harp on it. I don't really want to talk that much about this movie because I understand it does have its issues. So in general, I liked it, and if you didn't, that's okay. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but yeah. Coming in at number 16 is going to be Superman. As somebody who is not a big fan of Superman as a hero, just because I find that the overpowered superheroes are the least interesting, I was quite shocked that James Gunn had me emotionally enveloped into Clark Kent. I think that James Gunn did a stellar job at translating Superman to the big screen. This feels like a comic book movie in the same style that like Peacemaker and Suicide Squad feel very comic booky, and I am really enjoying that style. I'm very excited to see what he does with the rest of the DCU, even if the Peacemaker finale was a little bit underwhelming. But yeah, Superman, quite shocking. Had a good time with it. Think it's really great. So, number 16. At number 15 is going to be The Running Man. I know that there was a lot of controversy over this one. Not controversy, but a lot of discussion over this one about this not really feeling like a... Edgar Wright. I almost said Edgar White, sorry. Edgar Wright writing and directing this film, because a lot of people were thinking it's not really his style and it's not going to feel the same. And when you watch the film, it definitely doesn't feel the same as his other movies, but I'm okay with that. I'm not really emotionally attached to Edgar Wright or any of his movies, so that doesn't really bother me in concept, and I thought The Running Man was a pretty great time. There is a Stephen King adaptation, I think, that came out this year that I think was better, but there is some really great stuff here. Glenn Powell absolutely shines in this role. I think he is incredible, and I think that he will continue to have a very prosperous career going into 2026. But yeah, in general, I had a great time with The Running Man. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any standards, but I had a really good time with it, so I put it at number 15. Coming in at number 14 is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's 2, another hot take coming at you from Zach here. I'm going to be honest, I just love Five Nights at Freddy's. I've been obsessed with this franchise for like 9 years. I feel like I have the right to put this in my top 20. I really love Five Nights at Freddy's. Matthew Lillard has grown on me as one of my favorite performing actors currently. His few scenes he does have in this film absolutely stand out above the entirety of the rest of the film. But in general, I just really had a good time with this movie, especially watching it with my friends and getting to poke at all the Easter eggs we saw on the screen. Not quite as good as the original, I'm afraid, but it is still absolutely a great time at the theater if you're a Five Nights at Freddy's fan. So that's who I am. That's what I like, and it goes to number 14. Coming in at number 13 is going to be Together, a film that I was very excited for at the beginning of the year, completely forgot about, and then ended up streaming a couple months after it came out, and it is really good. Dave Franco and Alison Brie are absolutely an incredible duo here in this film. Their performances are absolutely what carries this film, but the concept alone is quite interesting, and codependency is something we don't explore very often in horror. We usually focus on more of the toxic or abusive relationships, so getting to see a codependent relationship explored is very interesting. And in general, I just find that Together was a really well put horror film, even if one critique I do have is I did not really like the ending. I understand that it was kind of the most inevitable ending for the story they were trying to tell, but yeah, I did not like the ending in this film. But I think this is a horror must-watch. If you're a horror fan, I think you gotta check out Together. It's definitely worth your time. So, number 13. Coming in at number 12 is going to be Good Boy. This was a movie that I think is also going to be a bit of a hotter take in my top 20, but Good Boy is here solely for the filmmaking prowess on display. The fact that a couple living in their secluded home with their dog were able to make a horror film over the course of 3 years is quite incredible stuff. The little end-of-film documentary that they show is brilliant, and it shows so much creativity with how they filmed this. The fact that the dog never even knew it was in a movie is incredible, and in general, if I could speak, I do actually really like the film in terms of the meat of the film itself. I think the depth and meaning of like the, the death symbolism and kind of the take that it does have on death is pretty interesting, and it's definitely not the best horror movie I've ever seen, but it is probably my favorite, more general horror film of the year, and it belongs absolutely in the top 20. Indy needs to win an Oscar or something because he's great. Coming in at number 11 is a film that a lot of people probably have in their top 5, and that is One Battle After Another. Look, I really like this movie, okay? I do. But it's not quite hitting the same marks as the other stuff in my top 10. I do like it. I think Leonardo DiCaprio still does his thing and is excellent in this film. I think Chase Infinity is even better in this film somehow. But it just doesn't click with me quite as well as other stuff. One thing I've noticed is that people are saying this is a Paul Thomas Anderson does it again. It's immaculate. He's so good at filmmaking. But when I was watching this movie, I kind of thought to myself, I really think anybody else could have directed this. Like, it didn't have to be PTA. Like, I didn't really see any PTA isms in this film that made it stand out above anything else. Maybe I'm not as directorially savvy as other people, but I don't know. For me, it didn't really click with me as hard. I also think the runtime is a problem. I can handle a 3-hour movie. There are plenty of other films I've watched this year that were 3 hours long. It's just this one, it didn't click with me in the right way. It's still really good and still just barely not in the top 10, but yeah. Coming in at number 10 is going to be Thunderbolts. I was kind of shocked by this movie, to be honest with you. Coming off of Captain America Brave New World, one of the bottom few movies that I saw this year, I was really, really worried that Marvel had officially died for me. Like, they died a while ago, kind of in my brain, but in my heart, I was giving them a chance. And then I watched Thunderbolts, and I was shocked, because not only does Thunderbolts bring back this kind of Guardians of the Galaxy style of movie for Marvel, where it's these ragtag characters that are kind of all villains, but they gotta work together, which is great, and I love that. But these characters actually have a lot of emotional core to them, and the depth of this script in general, with the mental health aspect and stuff, is really, really interesting. I love the direction they took with this. I think a lot of the characters are just really good, and I'm really excited to see what they do with these characters moving forward in the MCU. I have a feeling that we're never, ever going to get a Thunderbolts sequel, and these characters will not live very much longer in the MCU. Probably a few of them going to die off in Doomsday, but oh well, I guess we'll see what happens. Coming in at number 9 is going to be a film that another one that a lot of people might have a bit of an issue with, and that is The Smashing Machine. Look, the Safdie brothers locked in this year. I have never been a big Safdies fan. Granted, I've only seen the 2 movies they had this year and Uncut Gems, but I was not a big fan of Uncut Gems. I thought that it was a little too slow and not as interesting as their other 2 movies that they had this year, but point being, I wasn't a fan of Uncut Gems. Then I saw Smashing Machine, or I guess technically I watched Uncut Gems after, but I had seen parts of it, so I watched Smashing Machine, and I was like, dang, Benny Safdie was able to really make a intimate story about a character, and to be honest with you, Dwayne Johnson, sorry, I blinked on his name for a second. Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt are absolutely phenomenal in this movie. This is by far Dwayne Johnson's best acting performance of his entire career, and I need to get that very clear in people's heads. Benny Safdie's directing in this film is also excellent. It just looks so stunning, and the script in general is so emotional and intimate that it really makes this film just so like emotionally investing, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's definitely one you gotta watch to understand, because if you're not really, it's not really a sports movie, like it's not really a movie about the UFC or like MMA fighting or anything like that. Like, it kind of tricks you into thinking it is. This is much more a movie about like Mark Kerr, like Dwayne Johnson's character, than it is anything else. So if you're not really into these character study kind of movies, maybe skip out on this one, but for me, this hit every mark it needed to. And then we're going to talk about the Safdie brothers again. Don't worry, my thoughts on them have not dissipated. We just haven't gotten to their other film yet, so. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Frankenstein. Initially, I had this in my top 5, and I moved it around a little bit after I watched some of the films that moved up towards my top 5, and now it landed here at number 8. Guillermo del Toro phenomenally executed this film. I think Oscar Isaac's performance as Victor Frankenstein is excellent. Jacob Elordi as the monster is also excellent. My only critique with this entire film is really William Frankenstein, Frankenstein's brother. He's just kind of a nothing burger character, and then he also has a line that's like the most like subliminal messaging on a silver platter line ever. But other than that, this movie's phenomenal. I think it's one of the most gorgeous looking films I've seen in general. And yeah, I don't really have much to say. If you like the original Frankenstein, like the book, if you like the story of Frankenstein, I think this adaptation is absolutely wonderful. And if you're just a film nerd, this is kind of a movie I think you should watch because of the way it's shot, the way that it looks. It's just phenomenal. Guillermo del Toro locked in for this one, so yeah, loved it. Coming in at number 7 is going to be No Other Choice. I struggled to watch this film initially, not because of the subtitles or anything, but because there was no showings of it in anywhere near where I live. This film came out in film festivals, and I thought it was supposed to come out in November, and then it didn't come out in November. Then it got announced it was coming out on Christmas Day, but it had a limited release on Christmas Day for only New York and Los Angeles and the bigger cities in the United States. And then it came out finally to theaters worldwide in early January, being actually after I have recorded this video. And it came out, or it's going to come out, and it's at no screenings near me. Literally no theaters within 2 hours of me had this movie. So I had to work some magic to watch it, but I watched it, and yeah, it really is that good. Look, I'm going to be honest, this is the first movie that I actually watched with subtitles. I've never been a foreign film guy. I can watch literally anything else on planet Earth, but I've always been so super worried about foreign films because of the language barrier, and it just worries me that I'm not going to get as much out of the movie because the performances will not click with me due to that language barrier. How wrong I was, because No Other Choice is excellent. Park Chan-wook? I believe it's Park Chan-wook needs, like, awards for the directing in this film. Like, performances aside, directing in this film is absolutely incredible. One shot in particular that absolutely blew my mind was the shot of the husband and the wife on the phone when he's, like, killing one of the guys and he's on his phone, and then the girl, like, his wife is talking to him, and then they have like the two shots together where the backgrounds are different but the characters are like back to back. Oh my god, my mind was blown at that. Blown. I was like, what? Yeah. The camera work in this film is absolutely excellent. I love how this is like almost a Looney Tunes inspired little comedy, but it's also so serious at the same time, and it blends really well together for no particular reason other than it just does because they wanted it to. I really enjoyed No Other Choice. I was shocked by this movie because I had been really excited about it after I heard it was coming out and people had been raving about it in film festivals. And then I got really disappointed I wasn't going to get to see it. And then I found a way to see it, and I was really happy about it. So, definitely one that you got to check out if you don't have an issue with foreign films. I'm not somebody who's super critical over, if somebody doesn't want to watch a foreign film, that doesn't really, I understand. So, if that's not for you, maybe skip this one out. But I'm telling you, it is worth it. Coming in at number 6 is a film that a lot of people probably have at their number 1 or 2, but I moved it down just because of kind of my personal taste, and that is Marty Supreme. Look, after I first watched it, I actually didn't even have it this high, and then I thought about it some more, and I went to sleep that night, and I woke up, and I said, damn, that was really good. Marty Supreme is the kind of opposite of Benny Safdie, and which is funny because this is Josh Safdie, his brother, but very clearly, to me, Benny Safdie is the one who's good at writing characters, and Josh Safdie is the one who's good at writing chaos. Because this movie is chaotic, but in a good way. And it's not like the characters don't have depth. Don't get what I said twisted. The characters are very much full of depth in this movie, but damn, this movie is chaotic. I am not one to spoil this movie in particular. Out of all of the movies on this top 20, this is the only one that I don't want to spoil. So I'm going to let you kind of experience this movie for yourself. If you want to check out Marty Supreme, very much think you should, because it is worth it. And yeah, I won't talk anymore about it. Timothée Chalamet, he's going to win awards this year. Let's move on. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery. I think that might be a bit of a hot take because a lot of people didn't think of this one as fondly as the other two, but this movie does everything right for me. It's still not as good as the original. The original Knives Out is probably in my top 20, 25 favorite films of all time. But Wake Up Dead Man does a lot of things right. First of all, the murder mystery is so absurdly, unique and so absurdly different that it borders on supernatural in the best way possible. I really like everything they did in that aspect. I think Benoit and the um, lead lead priest, I think they're Catholic, right? The lead priest are very, very detailed and interesting characters in this film. The general cast is pretty detailed and interesting. Um, I think that the concept of having this as kind of this religious allegory is also really unique. And all I'm going to say is I think Rian Johnson should just make millions of these. Just keep making Knives Out movies, because I will watch all of them. This movie, I like it better than the second one because there's some depth to this one. The second one felt like they went more of the comedy reins from the first one. The first one's kind of this blend of like the comedy and the seriousness. The second one's the comedic one. This one feels a lot more serious than the other two. And I'm okay with that. I really liked everything they did with this movie. I think all of the shots and the allegories are really, really smart. And I just really liked it. So if you like murder mysteries and you like movies with depth, check out this one. Coming in at number 4, probably everybody else's movie of the year, but not quite mine, is Sinners. Look, it really is that good. I do have a few issues with it, not a lot, but a few issues with it that are more trivial issues, so I'm not really going to talk too much about them. But stuff that I like significantly overpowers those trivial issues. It's just really great. The fact that it can blend so many different genres is really, really excellent. I really appreciated how there's this kind of combination of blues music, like kind of a blues music tribute, horror, and being a period piece, and being set, and it's just a kind of a mob movie also. There's just so many different layers to this, and I think Ryan Coogler should be really proud of this movie, even if it doesn't win awards, because unfortunately he's just in a year where there's a lot of movies that are deserving of winning awards. But if Ryan Coogler doesn't win awards for this, that would be really disappointing. I think he should get Director of the Year in some capacity, and Marty Supreme should get Film of the Year, or I don't really know, Best Cinema, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of where I'm leaning in terms of the best movies this year, but yeah, there's nothing I can really say about Sinners that you probably don't already know, because probably everybody's seen this movie, so just leave it at that. Coming in at number 3 is a movie that I did not think was going to get this high on my list, but the more I think about it, the more I like it, and that is Begonia. Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone, simply put, are just brilliant in this movie. Yorgos Lanthimos is a director that I need to watch his other films. I haven't seen any of his other movies. Might do that at some point in the middle of the year when there's not really as many releases, kind of in like June area. Yeah, this movie is great. There's so much depth, so much allegory. That's all so well put and perfect and awesome. Performances are top notch. Directing is top notch. There's nothing negative I can say about Begonia. I think it's a movie that you really have to watch. It's probably, in terms of like quality, it's probably my movie of the year. There's 2 movies ahead of it that I think are more personally I like better, but Begonia is an incredible and excellent film, and I hope it wins something, because Emma Stone, especially, needs to win actress awards for this one. It's that good. Coming in at number 2 is going to be The Long Walk. This was initially my number 1 film of the year. The fact that they can take such a mundane task as just walking and make it so emotional and impactful is incredible. I like the world building. I think the dystopian world is perfect. This is probably the second best Stephen King adaptation I've ever seen. Granted, I will admit I haven't seen all of Stephen King adaptations, and my favorite Stephen King adaptation is probably not your favorite, but it's up there for me as one of the best Stephen King adaptations. The world building, like I said, immaculate. The characters are all really, really interesting and really, really like well written. The performances, especially from a lot of these people who are new actors that have never been in anything before, are simply excellent. Yeah, there's really nothing negative I can say about The Long Walk. Once again, another one of those movies that's like, damn, that's one of my movies of the year. Like, it belongs in the top 5. Honestly, my entire top 10 is pretty interchangeable the more I think about it. I could see No Other Choice being my movie of the year, Marty Supreme being my movie of the year, Knives Out being my movie of the year, like Begonia, like all of them. But yeah, The Long Walk is just also an incredible film. So check that one out if you get a chance. And my number one movie of the year, this is fully because of personal taste. Like, I just think this movie is, like, fun to watch. It's not necessarily the most depthful movie that I've seen, but it's just a fun watch, and that's Predator Badlands. Predator Badlands is exciting, it's thrilling, and it's a really unique direction for the Predator franchise. I love it. I love this movie. I had a great time with it in the theaters. I love the sci-fi elements. There's so much aura in this movie. It's a really great time. I don't have much else to say about it. It's just really that good. Deck is awesome. I can't think of the robot character's name that Elle Fanning plays, but she's great in the movie. It's all great. It's all great. It's all great. Honestly, like I said, my entire top 10, maybe even my top 20. Oh, no, definitely just the top 10. The top 10 is basically interchangeable. Thunderbolts is probably the worst out of the 10, but like everything else, like I'd put it in any order. I'd change it any day of the week because they're all so excellent. I was really, really impressed with the films that we got in 2025, especially the ones I put at the top. And yeah, that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. I think 2025 was a great year for film. There's been so many good movies that came out this year. I'm excited for 2026. If you're excited for 2026, you can check out my other video coming out in just a few days talking about 2026 new releases that I'm the most excited for. I'm doing a top 20 most anticipated list for this year. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. I totally forgot to mention at the intro, if you want to check out the entire 108 movie list of all of the films I watched in 2025 ranked, you can find it in the description below in my Letterboxd. I have tons of other lists down there, ones that will probably turn into videos in the future. So if you're interested in my other opinions on other films that have come out throughout time, you can find it all on my Letterboxd. I have tons of reviews, tons of everything, so go check it out. And if you enjoyed this video and you agree with my top 20 and just want to give your thoughts, especially on the ones in the lower end that are definitely hot takes, then do feel free to give me some thoughts. Please keep it civil. I like to have discussions about movies, not arguments about movies, because it's just something that I love talking about. So anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I will see you all in the next one. Enjoy 2026.